When Ninja Gaiden was released for the Xbox back in 2004, it was unanimously hailed as one of the greatest action games ever created. Its sublime combat, mixed with sky-high production values, made it easy to forget its punishing difficulty. 3 years and one reimagining later, the third iteration of the game is slashing its way onto the PlayStation 3 in the form of Ninja Gaiden Sigma. With some new features and a serious bump in visuals, has this game's edge remained razor sharp? Or is this old ninja a dog? Sigma tells the tale of longtime industry icon Ryu Hayabusa. After his entire village is slaughtered by a massive samurai named Doku, he sets off to get vengeance. Along the way, he runs into an interesting cast of characters that are all woven into the fabric of the plot. Not everyone is who they seem, and although some of the plot twists are fairly predictable, it's serviceable prose for an action game. One of the primary characters is Rachel the Fiend Hunter. This buxom beauty jumped in and out of the story in the original Ninja Gaiden, but here, her activities are much more fleshed out with brand new cutscenes. Where in the original game, she would go on her way to do her own thing, in Sigma these holes are filled, showing you exactly what she was up to between her meetings with Ryu. It definitely makes the story a lot more cohesive, which is something the game really needs, as the original didn't make a whole lot of sense. Ninja Gaiden Sigma's game design is similar to that of the Zelda series. As Ryu progresses, he's rewarded with new weapons, extended health bars, and more energy to pull off magic. Weapons can be upgraded to 3 different levels, and scrolls can be purchased that give Ryu new attacks with each one. New to the series is Dragon's Claw and Tiger's Fang, a pair of razor-sharp swords that are just as effective and versatile as the Dragon Sword, yet have an entirely new set of attacks. You also get the full complement of armaments from the original game, ensuring that there's a weapon on offer for just about any taste and situation. Save points are scattered throughout the game, and if there's one criticism of the design, it's that they can be uneven. Some come right after the other, but sometimes you'll have to trudge through several packs of enemies and a couple boss encounters before being able to save your progress. The single-player quest will take upwards of 15 hours for the average player, and once the game is complete, Mission Mode is unlocked, which pits you against a vast variety of the game's enemies arena style. More difficulty levels are also unlocked for play for the truly masochistic players, as even on the default setting, Sigma is no cakewalk. While we would have loved head-to-head online multiplayer, it hasn't been included, but at least you have the option to upload your scores to a leaderboard. A lot of atmospheric elements have been added, like leaves blowing in the wind, and a majority of the enemies have been completely remodeled. We faced a couple of rare bouts of slowdown, but otherwise, the game runs consistently smooth, all at the god-smacking resolution of 1080p. People who haven't played any iteration of Ninja Gaiden may watch gameplay of the game and ask, what's the big deal? Ryu is not short on flash, but for the uninitiated, it can look a lot like button mashing. Nothing could be farther from the truth. Even 3 years after its original release, there still isn't an action game that can match the visceral combat and split-second timing required to excel. There's definitely a learning curve involved, but once you get over the hump, there's no other action game that feels this rewarding. Blocking will become your best friend, and a huge part of the game is being able to keep track of large masses of enemies to time each one of their separate attacks. When you finally become adept at it, the sense of accomplishment is simply incredible. In addition to being able to get some insight into Rachel's story, you also get to play as her in a handful of brand new missions. Rachel's specialty is blunt force trauma, and while she's definitely slower than Ryu, her attacks pack much more of a wallop. She can be a little stiff at first, and her missions definitely aren't as engaging as Ryu's, but they're also fairly short in comparison. There are other new additions as well. In the older versions of Ninja Gaiden, your first encounter with Doku was a cinema that ended in Ryu's defeat. Now, you can actually play through that section of the game and fight the samurai. There's also a few new enemies scattered throughout the game, and running on water has been simplified so that Ryu does it automatically. The final adjustment comes in the form of 6-axis control. When performing magic, you can shake it up and down to boost the attack's power, but it's another one of those cases where it just feels tacked on. Despite all the accolades, One issue with the original Ninja Gaiden was its camera. The game didn't allow you to control it at all, and the programming wasn't perfect. In Ninja Gaiden Black, you could manually move it, but it still wasn't where it should be. The same issues are present in Sigma. You have complete control over the camera, but in tight quarters, it can sometimes have a mind of its own, leaving you blinded to incoming attacks. That said, the bulk of the combat takes place in wide open areas, where it's not an issue, and more of the problems really come into play when navigating perilous platforms. It's not helped by the fact that Ryu's general movement lacks the sensitivity needed for pinpoint navigation. One improvement is that he will now automatically scale some of the smaller objects, but we would have liked to have seen some more improvement in this area. A lot of people complained about the difficulty level in prior versions of the game, and Team Ninja has not listened to your cries. You're still gonna have to buck up and resist the urge to give your 6-axis a toss. Well, that's unless you want to give in and go to Ninja Dog mode, which is noticeably easier, but Ryu has a feminine accessory to remind you that you couldn't make the cut. There's no doubt that Sigma is a measuring stick of sorts, but we recommend sticking with it, as eventually you'll get the swing of things and won't have to suffer the shame. Ninja Gaiden Sigma is proof that truly excellent games are timeless. The bump in visuals is nice, and the added content makes it worth playing even for those who have already achieved Ryu's vengeance on the Xbox. 3 years after its original release, there are still few games that can hold a candle to what's on offer here, and Ninja Gaiden Sigma is easily one of the best games available for the PlayStation 3 and a must-play for any action game fan.